human history, making jealousy a portal to understanding broader emotional patterns. It reminds us that we are part of something larger, a collective tapestry of experiences, and that our individual journey is also a reflection of humanity's archetypal journey. It is an invitation to recognize the universality of our vulnerabilities and, at the same time, the uniqueness of our response to them. Jealousy as an autonomous complex. Think of jealousy as an entity within you that sometimes seems to have a life of its own. Carl Jung described complexes as clusters of images, thoughts, and feelings with a common emotional tone that can operate autonomously, almost like little personalities within the psyche. When jealousy dominates us, we are not in control. It is the jealousy complex that has taken the wheel. It drags us into imaginary scenarios, makes us question the loyalty of others, and drives us to actions we may later regret. This is not a sign of moral weakness, but a manifestation of psychic energy that, because it has not been consciously and integrated, has become autonomous. Jealousy, in this sense, is a noisy messenger that forces us to pay attention to these autonomous parts of our psyche. By recognizing jealousy as a complex, we begin to see it not as I am jealous, but as there is a jealousy complex operating within me. This distinction is vital, as it gives us the necessary distance to observe, understand, and eventually disarm it, transforming its disorganized energy into a force that serves our conscious growth. It's a powerful step towards self-regulation and individuation, where consciousness expands to include and integrate what previously seemed uncontrollable. Jealousy as a call to individuation. Through self-evaluation, jealousy often arises from a sense of personal lack or insufficiency. We feel that something will be taken from us, or that we are not enough to maintain what we value. Instead of focusing on the object of jealousy, the partner, the friend, the opportunity, Jung invites us to reverse our gaze. Jealousy is a catalyst for self-evaluation. It is not a weakness, but a beacon that points to our own unmet needs, our deepest values, and our sense of self. If I feel jealous of the attention my partner gives to someone else, perhaps I'm craving more attention for myself, or questioning my own worth. Jealousy, therefore, becomes an opportunity to explore our insecurities, to ask what we truly need to feel complete and secure in ourselves. It is a painful but fundamental invitation to the journey of individuation, forcing us to confront the I we believe ourselves to be and the I we can become. Rather than diminishing us, jealousy pushes us toward expansion, toward the search for an inner security that doesn't depend on external validation. It teaches us that true strength lies in knowing and nurturing ourselves. Jealousy and misdirected psychic energy, libido. For Jung, libido was not just sexual energy, but a general psychic energy, the life force that drives all our mental and emotional processes. Jealousy is an intense manifestation of this energy, often directed destructively, eroding relationships and inner peace. Imagine this energy as a raging river. If not channeled properly, it can cause floods and destruction. However, this same energy, when understood and redirected, can irrigate fertile fields. Jealousy, in its intensity, reveals where our vital energy is blocked or misdirected. Perhaps we are investing excessive energy in controlling others, imagining negative scenarios, or comparing ourselves. Understanding that this energy can be redirected toward personal growth, to nurture oneself, develop talents, seek inner security, and build a purposeful life, is crucial. Jealousy is not a failure of energy, but a sign that this energy is crying out for a more conscious and constructive direction. Instead of being consumed by it, we can learn to use this powerful current to drive our own evolution, transforming frustration into motivation for self-improvement and self-confidence. It's a unique way to channel the power of the self toward self-construction. Jealousy as guardian of a hidden treasure, the self. Though painful and often shameful, jealousy can paradoxically be a guardian of ourself, pointing to what we deeply value and fear losing, be it a relationship, an ideal, a part of ourselves we project onto another, or a promise of wholeness. It acts as an alarm, signaling that something vital to our integrity and well-being is under perceived threat. Think of it as a fierce guard dog that, despite being frightening, is protecting something precious. Rather than being merely a negative emotion to be repressed, jealousy can be seen as a beacon that illuminates what is essential to our soul, pushing us to protect and cultivate what is fundamental to our being. This emotion forces us to confront our attachments and question what truly fulfills us. Rather than diminishing us, it can motivate us to strengthen the foundations of our own identity and worth, ensuring that the treasure of ourself is not neglected. Honoring this function of jealousy does not mean giving into it, but rather listening to its underlying message, transforming the fear of loss into an impulse to value and nurture what is truly important in our lives and within ourselves. It's crucial to recognize that while jealousy can be a powerful messenger for individuation, it also has a shadow side that, if not integrated, can become excessive and limiting. The shadow of jealousy manifests as possessiveness, control, paranoid distrust, and even destructive behaviors that drive away those we value most. When jealousy consumes us, it can isolate us, prevent us from trusting, and trap us in a cycle of pain and resentment. It becomes a self-imposed prison, where the energy that should guide us toward growth is diverted toward vigilance and bitterness. This shadow side is not a character flaw, but the manifestation of an unresolved complex, unrecognized qualities, and deep fears that need to be confronted. Ignoring this shadow doesn't make it disappear. Rather, it gains strength from the depths of the unconscious, emerging at inopportune moments, and with overwhelming intensity. However, this apparent disadvantage is actually an opportunity for growth. Excessive jealousy forces us to look at the roots of our insecurity and integrate the parts of ourselves that we project onto others. This is the time when jealousy becomes a mirror, not of the other but of ourselves, inviting us on a journey of self-discovery and integration. The path to dealing with this shadow is not to eradicate jealousy. After all, emotions don't disappear by decree, but rather to understand it, accept it as a messenger, and then transform it. It's a delicate process, requiring kindness to ourselves, but promising immense freedom. First, it's essential to practice non-judgmental awareness. When jealousy arises, instead of drowning in it or trying to suppress it with shame, observe it. Where do you feel it in your body? What thoughts does it evoke? Remember that jealousy is an autonomous complex, not your entire identity. Instead of saying, "I'm jealous," try, "I'm feeling the jealousy complex in action." This small shift in perspective creates a vital space between you and the emotion, allowing you to observe it as a phenomenon, not as an absolute truth about who you are. Next, the invitation is for an internal dialogue. If jealousy is a messenger, what is it trying to communicate? Ask this part of yourself. What do you fear losing? What do you really need? What security do you lack? Often, jealousy is protecting a vulnerable part of us, a deep fear of abandonment or unlovability. By giving voice to this part, even if only in a journal or meditation, you begin to integrate it, bringing it from the darkness of the shadows into the light of consciousness. It's like bringing a frightened child into a hug instead of sending them to the darkroom. Identifying projections is another powerful tool. If you feel jealous of a quality you see in another person, confidence, freedom, talent, ask yourself, where does this quality reside in me? Where have I repressed it or failed to develop it? Jealousy is a beacon that points to your own hidden treasures, to the virtues you admire and that you unconsciously yearn to manifest in your own life. Instead of resenting the other, use this energy to cultivate these qualities in yourself. It's a redirection of psychic energy, libido, from an external and destructive focus to an internal and constructive one, an act of self-love and individuation. Furthermore, it's essential to strengthen the self. Jealousy thrives on insecurity. Instead of trying to control the external world to feel secure, invest in building your own internal foundation. Dedicate yourself to a hobby, develop your talents, take care of your body and mind, and cultivate nurturing friendships. The more you feel complete and valuable in your own right, the less you'll depend on external validation, and the less perceived threats will shake your sense of security. This doesn't mean isolating yourself, but rather building an inner sanctuary where your worth is unshakable. Finally, set healthy boundaries. In relationships, this means communicating your needs and expectations clearly and respectfully, without controlling demands. For yourself, it means recognizing when jealousy is becoming excessive and making a conscious decision to shift focus, perhaps by engaging in a fulfilling activity or seeking solitude to process the emotion. It's not about fixing jealousy, but about acknowledging its presence and choosing how to respond to it. Honoring your natural tendencies, while seeking balance and growth. This approach allows you to integrate the shadow of jealousy, transforming its potentially destructive power into a driving force for your own evolution. So, what have we learned from this journey through Carl Jung's lens? That jealousy, this misunderstood and often stigmatized emotion, is much more than a flaw. It is a complex messenger, an irrefutable invitation from our psyche to self-discovery and individuation. We saw that it can be a projection of our shadow, revealing qualities we deny in ourselves, an echo of universal archetypes of rivalry and abandonment, an autonomous complex that forces us to pay attention, a call to self-evaluation to nourish our deepest needs, a manifestation of misdirected psychic energy that can be consciously redirected, and, paradoxically, a guardian of ourself, pointing to what we value and fear losing. Rather than fighting jealousy or being ashamed of it, we are invited to face it with curiosity and compassion. It is a valid and meaningful part of your journey, a catalyst, albeit uncomfortable, for your personal growth. Embracing this emotion, understanding its Jungian roots, is an act of profound self-acceptance. It is recognizing that you are not jealous, but that jealousy is an experience that permeates you, offering valuable clues about your inner world, honoring your own inner rhythm, exploring what jealousy reveals about your insecurities and deepest desires, and learning to redirect the energy it carries is not a sign of weakness, but of immense strength and authenticity. You are becoming more whole, more aware, more yourself. By integrating this shadow, you not only free yourself from its control, but also contribute to a world where authenticity and self-understanding are valued. May this perspective inspire you to look at your own emotions, especially those you judge, with new eyes. Reflect on the situations in which jealousy manifests itself in your life. What is it trying to tell you? Share your thoughts in the comments below and continue exploring these Jungian concepts. For the journey to the self is the most rewarding adventure of all. This journey, however, doesn't end with intellectual understanding. The true magic happens when we apply this new lens to our daily lives, transforming theory into living practice. It's a continual invitation to deepen the dialogue with our unconscious, to dance with our shadows, and to truly live the process of individuation. Jealousy, then, ceases to be an isolated event and becomes a constant companion, a persistent teacher that reminds us of the lessons we still need to learn and the parts of ourselves that still await integration. Think of it as a craft, a delicate process of refining the self. There's no magic formula to cure jealousy, because it's not a disease. It's a part of the human experience, a marker. What we can do is refine our ability to listen to it, to interact with it consciously. This means that the practice of self-observation, which we mentioned when dealing with the shadow, needs to become a habit. When the emotion arises, instead of reacting impulsively, breathe. Ask yourself, what's happening inside me right now? This pause, this micro moment of awareness, is the space where individuation happens, where you reclaim the power of the autonomous complex and integrate it into your consciousness. It's in this space that you begin to realize that jealousy isn't you, but something you feel, and that how you respond to it defines the next stage of your journey. This new perspective on jealousy also has the power to revolutionize our relationships. When we understand that jealousy is largely a mirror of our own insecurities and projections, we stop assigning blame to the other. Instead of accusing or controlling, we are invited to communicate our vulnerabilities authentically. I'm feeling jealous right now, and I realize it connects to a fear of not being enough, being abandoned. This honesty is not a sign of weakness, but of courage and emotional maturity. It opens the door to a deeper intimacy, based on mutual understanding and support, rather than demands and control. It allows the other person to better understand your needs and at the same time allows you to take responsibility for your own experience, strengthening bonds rather than eroding them. Throughout this process, you will notice a subtle but profound shift, the building of unshakable inner confidence. Jealousy thrives on insecurity, on the belief that we need something or someone external to complete us. But by unraveling the messages of jealousy, integrating the shadow qualities we project, and nurturing ourself, we begin to realize that fulfillment resides within. It's not that external threats disappear, but their ability to shake your sense of worth diminishes dramatically. You become a sanctuary for yourself, a safe home where your essence is recognized and valued, regardless of external circumstances. This is the true freedom that individuation offers, the freedom to be who you are, without the constant need for external validation or control. The psychic energy that was previously consumed by jealousy, in rumination, in vigilance, in the pain of comparison, can be consciously redirected toward more constructive ends. Imagine all that emotional power, that intensity, being channeled toward your passion, toward your purpose, toward the development of a talent. Frustration can transform into motivation for self-improvement, fear of loss into a drive to value and nurture what is essential in your life. This transmutation is not just a pretty concept, it is a daily practice of personal alchemy, where the lead of jealousy transforms into the gold of growth and creativity. It is your libido, your life force, finding a new path of expression, one that serves your wholeness and your flourishing. It's vital, however, to approach this journey with patience and compassion. Working with the unconscious and integrating the shadow are neither linear nor quick. There will be days when jealousy feels overwhelming again, days when you feel frustrated with your own progress. In these moments, remember that self-compassion is one of the most powerful tools in Jungian psychology. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a dear friend. Recognize that you are in a process of profound transformation, and that each step, no matter how small, is significant. The journey is not about eradicating jealousy, but about learning to dance with it, extracting its lessons, and integrating it so that it becomes an ally, not an adversary, in your search for the self. Ultimately, jealousy, when understood and integrated, can become an unexpected guide to your purpose. The pain it evokes points to what is most precious to you, to your deepest values, to what your soul truly yearns for. It can reveal where you need to assert yourself more, where you need to trust yourself more, where you need to invest in your own growth and well-being. This intense emotion, which we so fear, carries within it the seed of an awakening, an invitation to live a more authentic life, more aligned with your inner truth. It is one of the many threads the unconscious weaves to lead us back to wholeness, to that sense of completeness that Jung called individuation. It is one of the many threads that the unconscious weaves to lead us back to wholeness, to that sense of completeness that Jung called individuation. This wholeness does not mean the absence of challenges or difficult emotions. Rather, it means the ability to view these emotions, like jealousy, not as enemies to be eliminated, but as intrinsic parts of the tapestry of life, each with its own message and purpose. Individuation is a process of integrating opposites, light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, love and fear. Jealousy, in its duality, offers us a fertile ground for this integration. It forces us to recognize that we are complex beings, capable of loving deeply and at the same time of feeling an overwhelming fear of losing that love. By accepting this paradox, we become more whole, more resilient, and less susceptible to the tyranny of a single emotion. When we begin to integrate jealousy, to see it as an aspect of our shadow that can be brought to light, we gain a freedom few experience. The energy that was previously spent on destructive fantasies, self-punishment, or attempts at external control can now be freed for creativity, building more authentic relationships and pursuing a greater purpose. It's as if an invisible weight is lifted, allowing us to breathe more deeply and live more lightly. This freedom is not the absence of jealousy, but freedom from jealousy, the ability to feel it without being consumed by it, to hear its message without yielding to its control. True empowerment in this context comes not from overcoming jealousy, but from understanding it and ultimately transforming it into wisdom. Every time you choose to observe jealousy without judgment, every time you dialogue with it and seek its underlying message, you are strengthening yourself. You are building a bridge between your conscious and unconscious, a path that leads to deeper self-confidence and an unshakable sense of self-worth. This is not an act of selfishness, but of radical self-care, which inevitably radiates into all your relationships and the world around you. For the journey of individuation is not just about becoming an isolated individual. It is about becoming a more conscious, more integral individual who can then relate to the world in a more authentic and contributive way. By making peace with your own jealousy, you become a catalyst for understanding and compassion in others. You become a living example that the darkest emotions can be sources of light, and that vulnerability, when embraced, is the foundation of true strength. So, at the end of this exploration, remember, jealousy is not a curse, but a compass that, while sometimes pointing toward uncomfortable terrain, always points you in the direction of your own growth and wholeness. Trust the process, be kind to yourself, and continue exploring the depths of your inner world. The greatest adventure of all awaits you, and jealousy, ironically, can be one of your most faithful guides. Embrace the journey, for it is in it that you find yourself. This wholeness does not mean the absence of challenges or difficult emotions. Rather, it means the ability to view these emotions, like jealousy, not as enemies to be eliminated, but as intrinsic parts of the tapestry of life, each with its own message and purpose. Individuation is a process of integrating opposites, light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, love and fear. Jealousy, in its duality, offers us a fertile ground for this integration. It forces us to recognize that we are complex beings, capable of loving deeply and at the same time, of feeling an overwhelming fear of losing that love. By accepting this paradox, we become more whole, more resilient, and less susceptible to the tyranny of a single emotion. When we begin to integrate jealousy, to see it as an aspect of our shadow that can be brought to light, we gain a freedom few experience. The energy that was previously spent on destructive fantasies, self-punishment, or attempts at external control can now be freed for creativity, building more authentic relationships, and pursuing a greater purpose. It's as if an invisible weight is lifted, allowing us to breathe more deeply and live more lightly. This freedom is not the absence of jealousy, but freedom from jealousy. The ability to feel it without being consumed by it, to hear its message without yielding to its control. True empowerment in this context comes not from overcoming jealousy, but from understanding it and ultimately transforming it into wisdom. Every time you choose to observe jealousy without judgment, every time you dialogue with it and seek its underlying message, you are strengthening yourself. You are building a bridge between your conscious and unconscious, a path that leads to deeper self-confidence and an unshakable sense of self-worth. This is not an act of selfishness, but of radical self-care, which inevitably radiates into all your relationships and the world around you. For the journey of individuation is not just about becoming an isolated individual. It is about becoming a more conscious, more integral individual who can then relate to the world in a more authentic and contributive way. By making peace with your own jealousy, you become a catalyst for understanding and compassion in others. You become a living example that the darkest emotions can be sources of light, and that vulnerability, when embraced, is the foundation of true strength. And so we come to the heart of the matter. Jealousy, that much feared emotion, is actually an invitation to your greatest adventure, to become fully you. It is not an enemy, but an ally in disguise, a messenger who, though sometimes using harsh language, relentlessly points you toward the path to your wholeness. Rather than being controlled by it, you can learn to dance with it, extract its lessons, and integrate it as a vital component of your rich psychic tapestry. The initial conflict of being controlled by jealousy is resolved by the understanding that the power to respond has always been in your hands, waiting to be realized. Liberation comes not from eradication, but from integration. Ultimately, jealousy is one of the many threads the unconscious weaves to lead us back to wholeness, to that sense of completeness Jung called individuation. Therefore, rather than seeing it as a curse, embrace it as a compass. A compass that, while sometimes pointing toward uncomfortable terrain, always points the way to your own growth and wholeness. Trust the process, be kind to yourself, and continue exploring the depths of your inner world. The greatest adventure of all awaits you, and jealousy, ironically, can be one of your most faithful guides. Embrace the journey, for it is on it that you find yourself. If this exploration of jealousy from a Jungian perspective resonated with you, provided some clarity, or provided a new perspective on your own experiences, please like this video. Share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. Which points resonated most with you? Your perspective is valuable and enriches our community.